Kensil Culture, Puppets, Props, Puns, Podcasts.
This is Kensil Culture, and I'm the legendary wit, and right over here is the grand poobah of all things pop culture. Ladies and gentlemen.
My mom's maiden name was Poobah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Kensil. John Kensil!
Hey, smelly weirdos out there in podcast land. John Kensil here. Hey, Wid.
Yes, legendary wit right here.
Oh, legendary
yes.
Wid. Nice tie.
Well, you know, I am a snappy dresser, John. I don't, I don't get my stuff straight off the rack like you do. Okay?
This is Armenian.
I don't get the checks going. Is that Armenian?
Yes. Salvation Armenian.
No, you look good in anything, John.
Really?
Yeah, but a mirror. But I'm just saying, you know, this tie is something I credit myself with different ties. I can't tell if we can see that out there, but these are the different characters from the Warner Brother movies. Well, there's Sylvester the Cat, Tweety Pie. Okay, we got the Roadrunner on there. Right over here is the one, the only Marvin the Martian. Marvin the Martian. We're sci-fi fans.
My
so,
space calculator.
On the previous show, we talked about horror movies and wrestling and cartoons and Three Stooges. Another big thing in the 50s was when cartoons were shown on TV. He became obsessed. A lot of comedians will say, oh, so-and-so inspired me. Warner Brothers cartoons.
Oh, yeah. They laid it between the lines a lot of time. And they kind of kept up with the pop culture of the time, too. And it would bleed into their scripts and everything. I mean,
as a kid, watching them, then finding Martin and Lewis and Bob Hope. But I saw a trivia thing this week about Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
It says Looney Tunes. Right? L-O-O, Looney Tunes, right?
Yeah.
Some people think the word tunes is T-O-O-N-S, Looney Tunes. It's not. It's T-U-N-E-S, like a musical tune.
I can't spell either.
Right? But no, it's neat, though. The tie here he has her. It's really neat because there was an evolution of these characters.
Like every one of them.
Like Daffy Duck started out as a crazy duck, going crazy. Then somewhere in the 50s, he became a bitter, jaded, mean guy who was competing with Bugs Bunny.
Bugs Bunny right here. And this is actually, it says Looney Tunes on the back.
Yeah, how's it
okay, and it spells T-U-N-E-S.
Yeah.
John, what a great bit of trivia that is. I did not know that.
That gets me, I call that fact the panty dropper. But this, yeah, unfortunately, it's these panties.
I don't know. I can't tell the leg from the. Okay, you get the idea.
Yeah,
okay.
that was our
you
pay
better
for.
Not drop these panties; they could hurt a kid.
That's how that was our pay for the show last night.
I'm glad that was brief.
But sorry. But it was very interesting. Like
I used to work in a panty factory.
You worked in a panty factory.
A panty factory. Yeah, I used to pull down about 300 a week.
Wait,
I'm sorry.
I used to make 100,000 G's a year.
Yeah. Did you work in an?
No, I worked in an alphabet soup factory. Bitches. So.
Sorry.
But the characters on his shirt there. Well, my middle name is Fact Ruiner, right? Phew. In real life, a coyote can reach speeds of like 48 miles an hour.
Right.
And a roadrunner can only make like 12 miles an hour. In real life, a coyote can catch a roadrunner.
Well, then why isn't it called a road coyote or a runner coyote?
Yeah,
And you know,
exactly. Oh,
and Wile E.
Real quick too. They're making a movie right now. I don't know how it's going to be, but it's a live action movie about a lawyer that sues the Acme company because everything they made for the coyote.
Oh yeah, everything came in an Acme wooden crate. Okay, everything from atomic bombs
and
to
rocket skates
to a paper clip.
Yeah,
would be in there.
And it never worked. A giant spring, shoes and stuff. But they're making a movie. I think it's called Coyote versus Acme, and it's someone wrote a parody, but they're making it into a movie, which should be actually kind of funny, but it's done right.
You can see where Home Alone borrowed a lot off of that, with the homemade contraptions to capture the that Wile E would go through to capture the Roadrunner. You can see a lot of that MacGyver stuff.
Now, who's the guy? Who's the guy in the early part of the century drew the machines that made things in the New York Times?
It's Goldberg. Okay.
Oh yeah,
I forget his first
Rube
name.
Goldberg.
Rube Goldberg. Okay. He's the only Rube that I ever knew, so I don't feel bad about forgetting his name.
But
Rube Goldberg made these little twittering machines, okay, that would perform mundane tasks. Mundane tasks that that would go through all these steps and everything, and it looked like dominoes falling and then hitting a ball, and then it would go down like this. And
like the kids' game Mousetrap or something like that.
The game of Mousetrap is based on one of his drawings.
But you look at this, and I said, we said it on the previous show. We should put back then when you first saw that, it had like a locomotive engine with gears and wheels and conveyor belts.
I have that.
But at the end, all it was doing was like painting a fence. But it was called Rube Goldberg. But that's what people like the Coyote, because he would always have things like that. But other things on his shirt, there's Marvin Martian. Who I liked? It was very funny. There's two characters that are very underrated on here. Sylvester the Cat was very funny, Fluffer and Succotash, right? It was always funny, but there's a great episode.
And who was that? Who was doing the voice?
Mel Blanc.
Mel Blanc.
Fluffer and Succotash, right? And I would love to see a video of him in the sound booth doing all these voices.
I'm sure there's one out there. I know I've seen him do it for the Army when he did Sad Sack.
You know what I saw too? It wasn't until like the 50s when
this is Mel Blanc we're talking.
Yeah, at the end of the Warner Bros. Cartoons, it didn't say till like the 50s voice characterizations by Mel Blanc. For a long time, he wasn't recognized. But Sylvester the Cat was very funny because it was ridiculous. Like they're going to get a mouse and a kangaroo gets let loose in the zoo and it looks like a giant mouse. But there's a great episode where Sylvester and about 10 other cats and a little short cat. And they go, "Thanks, we got to get this mouse. That's the last thing we do." And here was a kangaroo. It looks like a giant mouse, right? And they're all in a room. They're all just deciding how to get this giant mouse. And Sylvester says, "Are we men or are we mice?" Right? And this little cat goes, "I like cheese." And Sylvester kicks him in the face. Very funny. Daffy Duck, when he was the mad one, he would draw mustaches on the character. Very funny. Then for some reason in the 50s, they made them creeps, like mean.
Oh, they would, yeah. How about Foghorn Leghorn, who is not on this tie? I feel that's...
he's hilarious.
Foghorn Leghorn was... he was based on a radio show, okay, it was called like Senator Albright or Senator something like that, and he was like a semi-corrupt Southern politician.
I say, boy, what are you fixing to do with that there, Fleshlight?
Who there were rumors that in real life that he was racist. Okay, yeah, he didn't. He didn't like pigs or he didn't like horses or anybody else.
Oh, but he's right. When I was a kid, though, I loved it because the animation was so cool. It was well done and really, really neat. Okay, and Foghorn Leghorn was really neat too. It's like he always fought with some dog in the farmyard, whatever you call it. And he would go up and the dog would be sleeping in his house, and he would throw a stick of dynamite in the house, and the dog would chase after him. And there was a sign there that said "rope limit." dog goes, "Arr!" and they get stuck there. But it was very funny. Then, in the
It was a running gag.
it was hilarious.
A running gag when he would run away, and the dog would always have that leash pulling him like this, and that was,
well, it was
cause
cool.
for hilarity.
It was cool too. All right, that'd be one scene. The next scene, the dog would get him back, and the dog would like throw a hand grenade into the hen house, and you hear blah, blah, and you hear blah, 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 and Foghorn Leghorn would come out totally naked, and he'd be picking him up, going, "Fortunately, I keep my feathers numbered." To put him back on his body. It just made me laugh. But
That's funny that you remember those Foghorn Leghorn, because he had that sort of Southern home philosophy that that Andy Taylor has, and and that anybody in the the Streetcar Named Desire, and there's has that culture.
Oh, it was funny though. Like it was actually like funny and well written. There was a chicken hawk. I'm gonna get me a chicken.
Chicken hawk.
And he was trying to get Foghorn Leghorn, and
who's always out to scam you, or he's out to have you do his dirty work. The Foghorn Leghorn. He's like a Southern politician.
Then in the mid '50s, the animators went on strike. And they demand a lot of money, and it is probably hard. But it probably took a year to animate these things. It's, a couple hundred guys they went on strike.
Yeah,
and that's when animation got really flat, and that's when they started pushing the Roadrunner cartoons, because they used the same background, all those like cliffs and desert,
right?
And that's when because they had to cheapen up because they couldn't afford all the animators. That's why you saw shows in the early '60s like the Flintstones and Quick Joe McGraw and Huckleberry Hound. When they walked past the same trees.
That was Hyanna and Barbara, who used to work for MGM, and they went off on their own, and they exploited that cheap animation that was you cut down a lot, because you think of how long it took to make the Disney movies, because they were craftspeople. Okay, they would do it all the time, and
it's very neat too, and you can see it today. They even do this on early episodes of The Simpsons. It was kind of crappily animated, and then like the third season, they went to a different animation house, and actually kind of interesting. You figure how they do this. It takes like a year to animate a Simpsons episode, and you think it's one animation house. No, they farm it out to Korean animators. There's dozens of. That's how they get 26 episodes a season. And they all have the same like director. Like this, it's already.
I'm waiting until I'm incapacitated and to watch it, The Simpsons, from the first time they were actually on the whose show?
Tracy Ullman.
Tracy Ullman show. I want to see it from the beginning to the end. Okay, and then I'll die happily.
They've made 600 or 700 episodes, and I know some people roll their eyes. Oh, I don't like cartoons. The show has writers who wrote as good Academy Award-winning movies as good as it gets, and it's very neat. There's been a couple episodes of The Simpsons today where they go back in time and encounter the early Simpsons, and they have to like do their voices the way they originally did them. What's this?
Don't have a cow, man.
Yes. But it was a very interesting. But we always go on these wacko tangents. But like we said about earlier, cartoons, Simpsons, but this 50s cartoons, horror movies, wrestling, and stuff like that.
How about Jaws?
Jaws. What about Jaws?
Well, that was a horror movie, but it was also the name of a character.
Oh, that's exactly. Oh, he had this better segue.
How about that Jaws, John?
Well, we're getting to.
I'm not talking about a big fish here, John.
He's right. There was
an actor.
Okay. Now this is interesting. I thought this was neat. Like we said earlier, there's a huge obsession with horror and cartoony horror in the 60s and 70s, late 50s. Like they used to have hot rods of muscle cars, but a monster riding it, like Wolfman Mobile, and it's just very interesting. But there's a TV show on called The Munsters, which we talked about on the last episode. There was an episode of The Munsters who was owned by Universal, where the creature from Lebac Lagoon, the Gill Man, makes an appearance as like their cousin. And it was stupid. he only had like one scene. He's on a couch, and Herman's like, "Oh, cousin Larry," it's the creature. I don't think they had the full costume because the creature was wearing an overcoat with like an ascot, so you knew all they had was the mask and the hands. And Herman's like, cousin Joey or something, and he slaps in the back, and water squirts out. It was stupid, but there was another show on competing with it.
That's funny. I didn't know that. I wish he was a character more.
Oh, well, the other show was the Addams Family. Okay, and
Which came out first?
I think they both premiered like almost the same, like 64, 65, and there was
Addams Family came out first.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later, I think the Munsters came out.
And it was, but it was interesting. There's a character who was on the Addams Family,
Who's popular today.
the name of Lurch. Okay, Lurch was played by Ted Cassidy, big 6'9"
6'9".
Guy with a long face, and he had a form of gigantism called agronominally.
Yeah.
Right.
He said it right. A form of gigantism.
Yeah, and a
Okay.
aglo.
You fill it out in at home.
But it was very interesting. Now this story has a point. All right, which is very.
He was an actor. You might have seen him in what were some of the.
Oh my God! Ted Cassidy played Bigfoot on the $6 Million Man. He played a thug on several episodes of Star Trek. He's always playing the giant goon. All right, and
wasn't he in
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid?
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Which, by the way, too, I'm a doubting Thomas when it comes to movies. Okay, in the movie Rare's Lost Ark, there's a famous scene in there where Harrison Ford, as Indiana Jones, comes to a outdoor market, and he's being chased by the bad guys, and there's a big giant swordsman comes out, and he looks like Jafar from Aladdin,
And he has one of those big saber sword,
and he's doing this, and Indy just goes and shoots and kills him with a gun, doesn't fight him. And there's a story that says, well, that day Harrison Ford had stomach issues and didn't feel like going through this whole scene, so they just let him do that. I don't believe that. You can't alter from a script like that, but it makes interesting lore, right? Because that scene was written out. I'd love to see the script for it and see. I guarantee it was in there, but this goes back to what we're talking about.
But that's sort of a gimmick in movies sometimes to unexpectedly just say,
Well,
okay, we see this big mighty guy, and then all of a sudden the gun comes out and boom.
Well,
they just did that in a episode of Breaking Bad. I saw almost the same sort of thing.
Benny Hill did it. All right.
Yeah.
All right. He actually did. He's going to fight somebody.
Yeah.
But this goes back to Ted Cassidy. All right. In Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, he was a big hulking guy. Look, worked.
Oh, he was giant.
Well, he's shirtless, and he looks like he worked. California worked there, but he's going to fist fight Paul Newman, and Paul Newman just goes up and ducks and kicks him in the groin, and he falls on the ground.
Right.
Which is the exact same thing as the other movie, but
Ted Cassidy started out as a DJ, okay, down in Dallas, Texas, and he was actually there when Kennedy was assassinated, and got to interview a lot of people who were eyewitnesses. Okay,
you can it's a radio interview, but it's on YouTube, and you hear a guy with a real deep voice. So you were there in Dallas, and real quick fact, it has something to do with the story. There was 6 people in Kennedy's limousine when he got shot. Mm-hmm. I always thought it was 4. Him and there were 6 people. So Ted Cassidy interviewed him, but he had a very deep, booming voice, and he worked always playing thugs or henchmen or big space creatures on Lost in Space. A big hulking guy. Right? Now this is what I thought was very interesting.
He always played like genies or some sort of giant hulking background person in movies too. But he also. What did he voiced over? Because he had giganticism gives you you get much deeper resonance from your voice resonance.
Resonance, yeah, right. And but he was a known voiceover guy in the 70s. Every like Hanna-Barbera cartoon,
right.
Space Ghost, and he narrated them. He was a voice on like Super Friends and the TV series The Incredible Hulk with Bill Bixby, who is funny too because Bill Bixby's show, My Favorite Martian, was on the same time as those shows. But he was the original. He's a narrator. What was his name? David Banner, scientist with gamma radiation, till one day he turns to a rampaging beast. Wid told me last night that he found out that Ted Cassidy was supposed to.
He was supposed to be the Hulk, okay? And Ted, they went a different way. They wanted somebody with more muscle. They went for the sight. They wanted somebody shorter. How about that?
Yeah.
And with the, and that's how they got Mr. Lou Ferrigno.
And they actually filmed some scenes for the show with him as the green, but he's too like big and lanky. But
he didn't feel bad. He didn't feel bad about losing the show because he didn't like the green makeup, which was very hard to take off, and he also had to have fake muscles and things like that. So he didn't care much for doing it, and he got paid.
But and it's just but he's on a Miller Lite commercial, I think, with Rodney Dangerfield. He plays a bartender. And he's like, yeah, what'd you say, Rodney? But this is interesting though too. Like we were talking earlier about publicity mills. If you have a knack for something, they'll milk it. They'll find. Well, they saw that the Addams Family was very popular. They found a producer, and they had a dance song called "Do the Lurch."
Oh, I heard about that. I almost remember it, and they had a dance called The Lurch.
Yeah, and there's when she passed away a couple weeks ago, the girl played Wednesday, played by Lisa Loring. There's an episode, it's always online, where she's dancing some 60s. Right?
It's a cool dance. It's almost as good as the Charlie Brown dance, okay? Exactly. The Wednesday dance. And it's almost as good as the Carlton, too, for you.
Yeah. Well, she's dancing with Lurch, and he starts dancing, and it was a funny to look at because he's a big, lanky, 6'9" guy. So somebody said, I can make money off this guy because it's music and horror, and we can have a whole thing. At the same time, the Monster Mash came out. So there's a show called like Shindig or Hullabaloo or
Shindig. Yeah. He did it on Shindig, and he did it on another show, right. But he actually did it on Shindig too.
And do you really think? He's a human being, all right? And we just read something about him, too, that a reporter asked him, hey, Ted Cassidy, what do you think, what's your most memorable role? And he said, didn't he say, I hated all of them? I don't like any of them.
I hate every one of them. Right. I've never been allowed to express myself in a way that I want to express myself. I've always been a prisoner of my body, and because I'm 6'9" and giganticism and have a voice like that. But he was never satisfied with. I think that's for a lot of people too. Yeah, you always hear that, and you still hear that, and it's not exactly Rotten Tomatoes because he was a very smart man. He
wrote books on poetry and stuff.
Yeah, and he went to school early. He was one of those.
Prodigies.
A prodigy and kind of a Renaissance guy. He also played piano and harpsichord.
That's right, but he did not, even though he mimicked on the show, he did not play the harpsichord on the Addams Family, which was a very prominent part of the show. The theme music, he just mimicked it.
Vin Dizzy?
Vic Mizzy.
Vic Mizzy, did that. The man who did the music for
Thing, right there. Thing on the show was played by Ted Cassidy.
Oh, he had a hand in that. I'm sorry.
You eat a lot of finger food.
John, do the thing again, because this is the only thing that you're missing, John. Okay, is a little, is the little perpetrator right there. Yeah. Okay.
And hey, John, what else did he do?
Well, you usually have a monkey, not on your hand, but on your, okay.
He's going to go bananas. But Ted Cassidy, he did not play the Thing. That was when they were in scenes together. But this Lurch video during the show, at the end of our podcast, go look it up on YouTube. On one of the shows, he's dancing, and it's all girls, and it sounds like a song, like a Motown song. hey, Lurch. And you rang. Well, one of the dancers next to him is young Terry Garr. The mother from Mr. Mom and Young Frankenstein.
Young Terry Garr, yeah.
And she's dancing. She was a dancer back then, and you can spot her. She's on a lot of shows in the '60s.
I've seen her. I've seen her on. She was a shindig dancer. She was. Shindig was a big deal for a while. It would bring in the real groups, and they wouldn't mouth it. They would actually, but they would, they would perform for real, and they had people like Jackie Wilson being the host, and Hermans and the Hermits, and guest hosts every now and then.
Well, eventually Ted
the
Cassidy.
Righteous Brothers were real big on that.
Righteous Brothers. But Ted Cassidy, because of his big size, he had a tumor on his heart or a heart condition.
Because of his condition, giganticism, he had heart problems, and that go with this. It's a normal thing, and he passed away on the operating table.
So, Whit and I were discussing last night, and Whit was looking up on a phone, and in my weird head, I said, his last film was Donnie Marie Osmond had a film called Going Coconuts, and he died 2 months before. Turns right there. Oh my God! Okay,
Going Coconuts.
Joey Behar.
And who's that over there? Going Coconuts.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about this. Donnie Osmond was in the movie with Donnie Osmond.
You really have a Donnie Osmond record at home. Wait a minute.
That's next. Wait. I know. Wait. I'm sorry. We gotta get to the other guy. Jaws.
Okay. Don't go nuts.
You're gonna milk that. Are you gonna milk that? So,
shut up, Gilligan.
Coconut milk. Oh, by the way, too, 26 people die a year from coconuts falling out of trees on their heads. You ever see a coconut?
Oh yeah, that's an actual.
Your boy, Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, he was somewhere, Florida or something. He climbed a coconut tree and he fell out of it, landed on his head. But anyway,
he must have been high. He must have been off his nut. Keith Richards. I love that he's still alive and he's showing up. People probably ate health food and went to the gym every day.
So all right, Ted Cassidy. So he passed away. Okay, all right, and his body works incredible, but so he got divorced, but he's married a couple times. Well, his family had him cremated. They spread some of his ashes, but they had a box with his ashes in it.
Oh yeah,
they buried it in the backyard of his house. Well, then people just moved on with their lives, and nobody knows where his remains are at because the family moved several times, and nobody really researched. But
they destroyed the house. They tore down the house, and they built condos or whatever they build after a nice house, and they lost Ted.
Well, but here's where the story gets interesting. The same time Ted Cassidy was running around as Lurch.
This is a conspiracy theory?
No. There's another actor who was exactly like him named Richard Kiel.
Oh, yes.
He played Jaws in the James Bond films. Was it Moonraker or was it the second one? But only
Moonraker and I think The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah. He played a henchman in the first one. Sent after James Bond. He had big hulking guy with a metal teeth and he could bite through cables and stuff. But at the end of the movie, James Bond does something and helps him out. He plays a about face in the second movie. He had a girlfriend with blonde hair and pigtails. Didn't he? Oh, I know what happened.
The Jaws, who is like the ultimate henchman.
Yes.
Okay, because he doesn't kill you. He'll bite you in the neck and let you bleed out, and and he'll bite his way through a door or anything because he has these supersonic teeth.
Yeah,
and that's hence the name Jaws. Oh. Okay.
In the movie, they're going to kill James Bond by throwing him in a big fish tank with a shark in it, and James Bond gets the upper hand and he knocks Jaws into it. And it had to be a shark because it came out after the movie Jaws. Well, he's in the water, and you think, oh, he's going to get now because there's a great white shark in there. Next thing you know, it's just Richard Kiel grabbed the shark and goes, and he kills the shark. He bites it with his teeth. But I think so. In the next one, I think a cable car smashes into him. And he's laying there, the big cable wires all over him.
And James Bond is getting away in one of the cable cars, and he has to stop James Bond from getting away from this mountain lair that they're in.
Well, he's laying there, and a girl with ugly pigtails that look like a giant pretzel on her head, she comes over, and she has super strength, and she picks it up, and then she like winks at him, and then he winks at her, and then he becomes a good guy. But it's really,
he realizes that the real villain, who he is a henchman for, is going to kill all these people and going to kill that little girl that he falls in love
Yes.
with, and so he to save James Bond from escaping, what does he do?
he becomes a moil. And he circumcises with those choppers. No, I figure he does. He helps out James Bond. But
He bites the cable like this. Oh, it's like the greatest, because you think he's biting the cable from the cable car. And it was a big thing because he could only wear this teeth. The actor could only wear this teeth for, a couple minutes because it really hurt him. When he bites the cable on the cable car thing.
It was Twizzlers. It was licorice.
That was a twist at the end. It was a Twizzler.
Yeah.
No, but it was actually it was licorice that they had specially made for that. And
the story that I thought was really interesting is there's Ted Cassidy who played Lurch, and this guy who looked just like him with his same deep booming voice, and they looked alike. The Richard Kiel, one of his first acting roles, was on The Monkees. He played the Frankenstein monster.
Okay.
And they're going to put Peter Tork's brain in the monster. And it was really funny because he had he got zapped or whatever, and he became a beatnik Frankenstein. He's like, hey man, groovy. And he had square granny glasses. But he did the same thing.
He always had that same face, and everybody got those two mixed up.
They looked exactly alike.
And now who did that famous episode of The Twilight Zone?
Richard Kiel on Must Serve Man. It's a famous episode. It's probably that and the one with the monster on the wing with William Shatner, Terror of 1,000 Feet or whatever. But this one is these aliens come to Earth, and there's a big guy looks like Frankenberry, big ball in the front of his head, and they think they're going to help mankind out, and they have a guide, and the guide's called To Serve Man. And so these stupid Americans or humans get on the spaceship to go back to their planet. And somebody finds the book To Serve Man, and they want to help us and become better society. And they find out it's a cookbook, how to serve man, right? But I thought it was a tennis guide.
Did you hear about the cannibal who had a wife and 8 kids?
Where's my ejection sheet? But anyway, we all know who. All right, but anyway, he same thing. He acted throughout the same way, and he probably. But they looked exactly alike. I'm sure they were called. Like he's walking through the airport. Hey, Lurch. He's like, no, that's the other guy.
And we tried to do some research and find out if these two ever met, and what a great pairing they would have been for the
my God,
Twiddly Dee and Twiddly Dum or something like that.
Well,
they were both very smart guys. I think their isolation because of their condition, because they both had gigantism.
Now, you Nimrods at home, you know who I'm talking about because he's in a very famous film, Richard Kiel, called Happy Gilmore. He's the guy in the golf audience. He's like, hey, Shooter McGavin, I'm going to be waiting after you. And his big size hurt him. And I met him at a horror convention. I got his autograph. I think I brought it in one time. He big hulking up. He had dyed brown hair and stuff. But if you watch Happy Gilmore, because he's so big, you know that being that big is not good for your health. Well, he's chasing after the Shooter McGavin in the end of the film. You can see he's on a hand truck, right? Because they just show him going like this, running, but you don't see his legs moving, right? Because when you run, your shoulders are not. He's just going like this. So watch Happy Gilmore. You see his arms go up and down. But he passed away a couple years ago too, and he
lived to 75. I thought that was poor. The poor other guy, he lived to 42 or 43, and because of his condition. But I guess,
So here we are talking about monsters and giant people.
That's all right. That's what people want to hear about. They don't want to hear about, They don't want to hear about these.
Oh.
I've been trying to blow this up it's, this balloon must have been made in China, John. I don't know. I don't know. I can't afford the ones from America because of inflation.
I got this at a Blimpies men's room machine was selling them.
Oh, stop that. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is going to wrap up, our little episode right here, okay? I love talking about monsters. I think that's, it's a great place to, it's an adult fantasy world. What am I going to listen to? Princes, the Hunger Games?
Yeah.
No, I want monsters.
If you're at home going, I don't know what he's talking about, it's interesting. We describe it. We tell you who they are.
Yes,
It's weird.
and look it up. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the legendary Wade.
I'm JFK, John Kensil.
And we're going to say goodnight for right now. Kensil culture.